Index of the Project Gutenberg Works of Jonathan Swift ******. Index of the Project Gutenberg Works of Jonathan Swift compiled by David Widger Swift. Contents. Click on the # before many of the titles to view a linked table of contents for that volume. Click on the title itself to open the original online file. The Battle of the Books, a modest proposal ##. The Bickerstaff Partridge Papers, the Journal to Stella ##. The Tale of a Tub and the History of Martin ##. Prayers and Sermons ##. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift, Volume 4 ##. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift, Volume 6 ##. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift, Volume 7 ##. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift, Volume 9 ##. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift, Vol X ##. The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume I, of 2 ##. The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2, of 2 ##. Gulliver's Travels, Illustrated. Gulliver's Travels ##. Ireland in the Days of Dean Swift ##. Hints to Servants. Tables of Contents of Volumes. The Bickerstaff Partridge Papers by Jonathan Swift. Contents. Predictions for the year 1708. The accomplishment of the first of Mr. Bickerstaff's predictions, an elegy on the supposed death of Partridge, the almanac maker. An epitaph on Partridge. Partridge's reply, a vindication of Isaac Bickerstaff, Esquires, a famous prediction of Merlin, the British wizard. Dr. John Arbuthnot and Alexander Pope, A Tale of a Tub and the History of Martin by Jonathan Swift. Contents. A Tale of a Tub to the Right Honourable John Lord Somers 37. The Bookseller to the Reader 41. The Epistle Dedicator 43. The Preface 49. Section I. The Introduction 59. Section 2. 70. Section 3. A Digression Concerning Critics 81. Section 4. A Tale of a Tub 90. Section V. A Digression in the Modern Kind 100. Section 6. A Tale of a Tub 106. Section 7. A Digression in Praise of Digressions 113. Section 8. A Tale of a Tub 118. Section 9. A Digression Concerning the Original 125. Section X. A Farther Digression 138. Section 11. A Tale of a Tub 143. The Conclusion 155. The History of Martin. The History of Martin 159. A Digression on the Nature 163. The History of Martin, continued 164. A Project for the Universal Benefit of Mankind 165. 3 Prayers and Sermons by Jonathan Swift. Contents on Sleeping in Church 385. On the Wisdom of This World 393. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift Volume 4 by Jonathan Swift. Contents. Swift's Writings on Religion and the Church. A letter from a member of the House of Commons in Ireland to a member of the House of Commons in England concerning the sacramental test. Written in the year 1708. The Presbyterian's Plea of Merit. A narrative of the several attempts, which the dissenters of Ireland have made, for a repeal of the sacramental test. Queries wrote by Dr. J. Swift, in the year 1732. Relating to the sacramental test. The advantages proposed by repealing the sacramental test, impartially considered. By the Rev. Dr. Swift, Dean of St. Patrick's, reasons humbly offered to the Parliament of Ireland for repealing the sacramental test, and c. in favour of the Catholics, otherwise called Roman Catholics, and by their ill-wishers Papists. Some few thoughts concerning the repeal of the test. 1. 10 reasons for repealing the Test Act. 1. Sermons on mutual subjection, on the testimony of conscience, on the Trinity, on brotherly love. 1. The difficulty of knowing one's self. 1. On false witness, on the wisdom of this world. 1. Doing good, on the martyrdom of King Charles I, on the poor man's contentment. A sermon on the causes of the wretched condition of Ireland. 1. A sermon upon sleeping in church. Appendix I. Swift's remarks on Dr. Gibbs's paraphrase of the Psalms. The first 15 Psalms, translated into English verse. Appendix 2. A proposal humbly offered to the PT for the more effectual preventing the further growth of popery. Appendix 3. Swift and Sir Jean Bettesworth. An epigram. 1. Inscribed to the Honourable Sergeant Kite. The Yahoo's Overthrow, or, the Kevan Bale's New Ballad. 3. Upon Sergeant Kite's insulting the Dean. On the Archbishop of Cashel, 1, and Bettesworth. Appendix 4. A true and faithful narrative of what passed in London, during the general consternation of all ranks and degrees of mankind, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift Volume 6. By Jonathan Swift. Contents: The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift. Introduction. Letter I to the shopkeepers, tradesmen, farmers, and common people of Ireland. Letter 2. To Mr. Harding the Printer. The report of the Committee of the Lords of His Majesty's Most Honourable Privy Council, in relation to Mr. Wood's halfpence and farthings, etc. 1. At the Council Chamber at Whitehall, the 24th day. Letter 3. To the Nobility and Gentry of the Kingdom of Ireland. Letter 4. A letter to the whole people of Ireland. Seasonable advice to the Grand Jury, concerning the bill preparing against the printer of the Drapier's fourth letter. Letter V. A letter to the Lord Chancellor Middleton. Advertisement to the reader. 2. Letter V. A letter to the Lord Chancellor Middleton. 5. Letter 6. A letter to the Right Honourable the Lord Viscount Molesworth. Directions to the printer. Letter 6. A letter to the Right Honourable the Lord Viscount Molesworth, at his house at Brackenstown near Swords. 6. Letter 7. An humble address to both Houses of Parliament. By M.B. Drapier. Letter 7. An humble address to both Houses of Parliament. Appendix I. Addresses to the King. Appendix 2. Report of the assay on Wood's coinage, made by Sir Isaac Newton, Edward Southwell, Esquires, and Thomas Scroop, Esquires. 1. Appendix 3. Tom Punsaby's Dream. 1. Appendix 4. A letter from a friend to the Right Honourable. 1. A second letter from a friend to the Right Honourable. Appendix V. The presentment of the Grand Jury of the County of the City of Dublin. 1. Appendix 6. Proclamation against the Drapier. Appendix 7. Appendix 8. Ireland's case humbly presented to the Honourable the Knights, Citizens, and Burgesses in Parliament assembled. Appendix 9. Descriptions of the various specimens of Wood's coins index. The prose works of Jonathan Swift. Vol. 7. Historical and Political Tracts. Irish contents. A letter to a Member of Parliament, in Ireland, upon the choosing a new Speaker. Their 1 a.m. proposal for the universal use of Irish manufacture. 11. An essay on English bubbles. By Thomas Hope, Esquire. 31. The Swearers' Bank. 37. A letter to the King at Arms. 47. The last speech and dying words of Ebenezer Elliston. 55. The truth of some maxims in state and government, examined with reference to Ireland. 63. The blunders, deficiencies, distresses, and misfortunes of Quilca. 73. A short view of the state of Ireland. 79. The story of the injured lady, written by herself. 93. The answer to the injured lady. 104. An answer to a paper called A Memorial of the Poor Inhabitants, Tradesmen, and Labourers of the Kingdom of Ireland. 107. Answer to several letters from unknown persons. 117. An answer to several letters sent me from unknown hands. 127. A letter to the Archbishop of Dublin concerning the weavers. 135. Observations occasioned by reading a paper entitled The Case of the Woolen Manufactures of Dublin, etc. 145. The present miserable state of Ireland. 151. The substance of what was said by the Dean of St. Patrick's to the Lord Mayor and some of the aldermen when his lordship came to present the said Dean with his freedom in a gold box. 167. Advertisement by Dr. Swift in his defence against Joshua, Lord Allen. 173. A letter on Mr. M. Cooler's project about halfpence, and a new one proposed. 177. A proposal that all the ladies and women of Ireland should appear constantly in Irish manufactures. 191. A modest proposal for preventing the children of poor people from being a burthen to their parents or the country, and for making them beneficial to the public. 201. Answer to the craftsman. 217. A vindication of His Excellency John, Lord Carteret. 225. A proposal for an Act of Parliament to pay off the debt of the nation without taxing the subject. 251. A case submitted by Dean Swift to Mr. Lindsay, Councillor at Law. 259. An examination of certain abuses, corruptions, and enormities in the city of Dublin. 261. A serious and useful scheme to make an hospital for incurables. 283. The humble petition of the footmen in and about the city of Dublin. 305. Advice to the freemen of the city of Dublin in the choice of a member to represent them in Parliament. 309. Some considerations humbly offered to the Lord Mayor, the Court of Aldermen and Common Council of the City of Dublin in the choice of a recorder. 317. A proposal for giving badges to the beggars in all the parishes of Dublin. 321. Considerations about maintaining the poor. 337. On barbarous Denominations in Ireland 343 Speech delivered on the lowering of the coin 351 Irish eloquence 361 A dialogue in Hibernian style 362 to the Provost and Senior Fellows of Trinity College, Dublin 364 to the Right Worshipful the Mayor, Aldermen, Sheriffs, and Common Council of the City of Cork 366 to the Honourable the Society of the Governor and Assistants in London, for the new plantation in Ulster 368 Certificate to a discarded servant 369 An exhortation addressed to the Subdean and Chapter of St. Patrick's Cathedral, Dublin 370 Appendix, a letter to the writer of the occasional paper 375 An account of the court and empire of Japan 382 The answer of the Right Honourable William Pulteney, Esquire, to the Right Honourable Sir Robert Walpole 392 Index 401. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift Vol 7 Historical and Political Tracts Irish Contents A letter to a Member of Parliament, in Ireland, upon the choosing a new Speaker their 1 a.m. proposal for the universal use of Irish manufacture 11 An essay on English bubbles. By Thomas Hope, Esquire 31 The Swearers Bank 37 A letter to the King at Arms 47 The last speech and dying words of Ebenezer Elliston 55 The truth of some maxims in state and government, examined with reference to Ireland 63 The blunders, deficiencies, distresses, and misfortunes of Quilca 73 A short view of the state of Ireland 79 The story of the injured lady, written by herself 93 The answer to the injured lady 104 An answer to a paper called A Memorial of the Poor Inhabitants, Tradesmen, and Labourers of the Kingdom of Ireland 107 Answer to several letters from unknown persons 117 An answer to several letters sent me from unknown hands 127 A letter to the Archbishop of Dublin concerning the weavers 135 Observations occasioned by reading a paper entitled The Case of the Woolen Manufactures of Dublin etc. 145 The present miserable state of Ireland 151 The substance of what was said by the Dean of St. Patrick's to the Lord Mayor and some of the aldermen when his lordship came to present the said Dean with his freedom in a gold box 167 Advertisement by Dr. Swift in his defence against Joshua, Lord Allen 173 A letter on Mr. M. Cooler's project about halfpence, and a new one proposed 177 A proposal that all the ladies and women of Ireland should appear constantly in Irish manufactures 191 A modest proposal for preventing the children of poor people from being a burthen to their parents or the country, and for making them beneficial to the public 201 Answer to the Craftsman 217 A vindication of His Excellency John, Lord Carteret 225 A proposal for an Act of Parliament to pay off the debt of the nation without taxing the subject 251 A case submitted by Dean Swift to Mr. Lindsay, Councillor at Law 259 An examination of certain abuses, corruptions, and enormities in the city of Dublin 261 A serious and useful scheme to make an Hospital for Incurables 283. The humble petition of the footman in and about the city of Dublin 305. Advice to the freemen of the city of Dublin in the choice of a member to represent them in Parliament 309. Some considerations humbly offered to the Lord Mayor, the Court of Aldermen and Common Council of the City of Dublin in the choice of a Recorder 317. A proposal for giving badges to the beggars in all the parishes of Dublin 321. Considerations about maintaining the poor 337. On barbarous denominations in Ireland 343. Speech delivered on the lowering of the coin 351. Irish eloquence 361. A dialogue in Hibernian style 362. To the Provost and Senior Fellows of Trinity College, Dublin 364. To the Right Worshipful the Mayor, Aldermen, Sheriffs, and Common Council of the City of Cork 366. To the Honourable the Society of the Governor and Assistants in London, for the new plantation in Ulster 368. Certificate to a discarded servant 369. An exhortation addressed to the Subdean and Chapter of St. Patrick's Cathedral, Dublin 370. Appendix, a letter to the writer of the occasional paper 375. An account of the court and empire of Japan 382. The answer of the Right Honourable William Pulteney, Esquire, to the Right Honourable Sir Robert Walpole 392. Index 401. The Prose Works of Jonathan Swift Vol 9 by Jonathan Swift. Contributions to the Tatler, the Examiner, the Spectator, and the Intelligencer. Contents. Introduction. Contributions to the Tatler. The Tatler, Num. 32. The Tatler, Num. 35. The Tatler, Num. 59. The Tatler, Num. 63. The Tatler, Num. 66. The Tatler, Num. 67. The Tatler, Num. 68. The Tatler, Num. 70. The Tatler, Num. 71. The Tatler, Num. 230. The Tatler, Num. 258. The Tatler, Num. I. The Tatler, number 2. The Tatler, number 5. The Tatler, Num. 298.1. The Tatler, Num. 302.1. The Tatler, Num. 306.1. Contributions to the Examiner. The Examiner. Num. 14.1. Num. 15.1. Num. 16.1. Num. 17.1. Num. 18.1. Num. 19.1. Num. 20.1. Num. 21.1. Num. 22.1. Num. 23.1. Num. 24.1. Num. 25.1. Num. 26.1. Num. 27.1. Num. 28.1. Num. 29.1. Num. 30.1. Num. 31.1. Num. 32.1 num 33.1 num 34.1 num 35.1 num 36.1 num 37.1 num 38.1 num 39.1 num 40.1 num 41.1 num 42.1 num 43.1 num 44.1 num 45.1 num 46.1 Contribution to the spectator. The spectator, num L.1 Contributions to the intelligencer. The intelligencer, num 1.1 The intelligencer, num 3.1 The intelligencer, num 19.1 Index. The prose works of Jonathan Swift Vol X of Bonn's Standard Library Vol X Historical Writings Contents Introduction The History of the 4 Last Years of the Queen. By the late Jonathan Swift, DDDSPD Advertisement The Author's Preface. 1. The History of the 4 Last Years of the Queen. The History of the 4 Last Years of the Queen. 2. The History of the 4 Last Years of the Queen. 3. The History of the 4 Last Years of the Queen. 4. An abstract of the history of England, from the invasion of it by Julius Caesar to the reign of Henry II. Swift's remarks on the characters of the court of Queen Anne. From Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay, Esquire's remarks on Lord Clarendon's History of the Rebellion, Oxford edition, 1707, 3 vols. From the original, in St. Patrick's Library. Preface. Remarks on Bishop Burnet's History of Scotland in Swift, his own time folio edition, 1724-34. Preface. Notes on the Freeholder. Notes on the Freeholder. 1. Index. The Poems of Jonathan Swift Volume I, of 2. Contents. Preface. Introduction. Poems of Jonathan Swift. Ode to Dr. William Sancroft. 1. Late Lord Bishop of Canterbury. Ode to the Hun Sir William Temple, written at Moor Park in June, 1689. Ode to King William on his successes in Ireland. Ode to the Athenian Society. 1. To Mr. Congreve, written in November, 1693. Occasioned by Sir William Temple's late illness and recovery. Written in a Lady's Ivory Table Book, 1698. Mrs. Frances Harris's Petition, 1699. Ballad on the Game of Traffic. A ballad to the tune of the Cut Purse. 1. The Discovery. The Problem, that my Lord Berkeley stinks when he is in love. The Description of a Salamander. 1705. To Charles Mordaunt, Earl of Peterborough. 1. On the Union on Mrs. Biddy Floyd, or the Receipt to Form a Beauty. 1707. The Reverse. To Swift's verses on Biddy Floyd, or Mrs. Cludd. Apollo outwitted. Answer to lines from Mayfair. 1. Vanbrugh's House. 1. Built from the ruins of Whitehall that was burnt, 1703 Vanbrugh's House, 1. Built from the ruins of Whitehall that was burnt, 1703 Borses and Philemon, 1. Borses and Philemon, 1. The History of Vanbrugh's House, 1708 A Grub Street Elegy on the supposed death of Partridge the Almanac Maker. 1. 1708 The Epitaph, a description of the morning, a description of a city shower. 1. On the little house by the churchyard of Castleknock, 1710 A Town Eclogue. 1710, 1. A conference between Sir Harry Pierce's chariot, and Mrs. D. Stopford's chair, 1. To Lord Harley, on his marriage, 1. The 31st of October, 1713 Phyllis, or, The Progress of Love, 1716 Horace, Book 4, Ode 9, addressed to Archbishop King, 1. 1718 to Mr. Delany, 1. October 10, 1718 An elegy, 1. On the death of Dumas, the usurer, who died on the 6th of July, 1720 Epitaph on the same to Mrs. Houghton of Beaumont, on praising her husband to Dr. Swift. Verses written on a window, at the Deanery House, St. Patrick's on another window, 1. Apollo to the Dean. 1. 1720 News from Parnassus, by Dr. Delany occasioned by Apollo to the Dean. 1720 Apollo's edict occasioned by news from Parnassus, the description of an Irish feast, the progress of beauty. 1719, 1. The progress of marriage, 1. The progress of poetry, the South Sea Project. 1721 Fabula Canis et Umbrea Prologue Billet to a company of players sent with the prologue epilogue, 1. To Mr. Hoppy's benefit night, at Smock Alley Prologue, 1. To a play for the benefit of the distressed weavers. By Dr. Sheridan. Spoken by Mr. Elrington. 1721 Epilogue to a benefit play, given in behalf of the distressed weavers. By the Dean. Spoken by Mr. Griffith. Answer to Dr. Sheridan's prologue, and to Dr. Swift's epilogue. In behalf of the distressed weavers. By Dr. Delany. On Gallstown House, the seat of George Rochfort, Esquires. By Dr. Delany. The Country Life, part of a summer spent at Gallstown House, the seat of George Rochfort, Esquires. Dr. Delany's villa, 1. On one of the windows at Delville Carberry Roups in Comité to Corrigency. Scripsit John. Anne. Dom. 1723 Carberry Rocks. Translated by Dr. Duncan. Copy of the birthday verses on Mr. Ford, 1. On Dreams, an imitation of Petronius sent by Dr. Delany to Dr. Swift, in order to be admitted to speak to him when he was deaf. 1724 The answer, a quiet life and a good name to a friend who married a shrew. 1724 Advice to the Grub Street verse writers, 1726. A pastoral dialogue, written June 1727, just after the news of the death of George I, who died the 12th of that month in Germany. 1. Desire and Possession 1727. On Censure 1727. The Furniture of a Woman's Mind 1727. Clever Tom Clinch Going to be Hanged 1727. Dr. Swift to Mr. Pope, while he was writing the Dunshad 1727. A love poem from a physician to his mistress, written at London Bouts Rimes. 1. On Signora Domitilla Helter Skelter, or the hue and cry after the attorneys upon their riding the circuit. The puppets show the journal of a modern lady in a letter to a person of quality. 1728. The logicians refuted the elephant, or the Parliament man Paulus, an epigram by Mr. Lindsay. 1. The Answer by Dr. Swift. A dialogue between an eminent lawyer, 1, and Dr. Jonathan Swift, DSPD, in allusion to Horace, Book 2, Satire I, on burning a dull poem. 1729. An excellent new ballad, or the True English Dean, 1, to be hanged for rape. 1730. On Stephen Duck the Thresher, and favourite poet, a quibbling epigram. 1730. The Ladies' Dressing Room. 1730. The Power of Time. 1730. Cassinus and Peter, a tragical elegy. 1731. A beautiful young nymph going to bed, written for the honor of the fair sex. 1731. Strephon and Chloe. 1731. Apollo, or A Problem Solved. 1731. The Place of the Damned. 1731. The Day of Judgment, 1, Judas. 1731. An Epistle to Mr. Gay, 1. 1731. To a lady who desired the author to write some verses upon her in the heroic style, epigram on the busts, 1, in Richmond Hermitage. 1732. Another, a conclusion drawn from the above epigrams, and sent to the Drapier Dr. Swift's answer to the Reverend Dr. Swift, with a present of a paper book, finely bound, on his birthday, November 30, 1732. 1. By John, a Lavorary verses left with a silver standish on the Dean of St. Patrick's desk, on his birthday. By Dr. Delany, verses occasioned by the foregoing presents, verses sent to the Dean with an eagle quill, on hearing of the presents by the Earl of Orrery and Dr. Delany. By Mrs. Pilkington, an invitation, by Dr. Delany, in the name of Dr. Swift, the Beast's confession to the priest, observing how most men mistake their own talents. 1732. The Parson's Case, the hardship upon the ladies. 1733 A love song in the modern taste. 1733 The Storm, Minerva's petition ode on science. A young lady's complaint. 1. For the stay of the Dean in England on the death of Dr. Swift, written in November, 1731. 1. On Poetry, a Rhapsody. 1733 Verses sent to the Dean on his birthday, with Pine's Horace, finely bound. By Dr. Jaysacan. 1. Epigram by Mr. Bowyer intended to be placed under the head of Gulliver. 1733 On Psyche. 1. The Dean and Duke. 1734 Written by Dr. Swift on his own deafness, in September. 1734 The Dean's Manner of Living Epigram by Mr. Bowyer Verses made for Fruit Women on Rover, a Lady's Spaniel Epigrams on Windows, several of them written in 1726 to Janus, on New Year's Day. 1726 A motto for Mr. Jason Hassard, woolen draper in Dublin, whose sign was the Golden Fleece, to a friend who had been much abused in many inveterate libels. Catch a luster lesbia. 1. On a curate's complaint of hard duty to Betty, the grisette epigram from the French. 1. Epigram. 1. Epigram added by Stella. 1. Joan Cudgels Ned Verses on two celebrated modern poets. Epitaph on General Gorges. 1. And Lady Meath. 2. Verses on I know not what. Dr. Swift to himself on St. Cecilia's Day, in answer to a friend's question. Epitaph inscribed on a marble tablet, in Berkeley Church, Gloucestershire. Epitaph on Frederick, Duke of Skomorg. 1. Verses written during Lord Carteret's administration of Ireland. An apology to Lady Carteret. The birth of manly virtue on Paddy's character of the Intelligencer. 1. 1729 An epistle to His Excellency John, Lord Carteret by Dr. Delany. 1729. 1. An epistle upon an epistle from a certain doctor to a certain great lord. Being a Christmas box for Dr. Delany. A libel on the Reverend Dr. Delany, and His Excellency John, Lord Carteret. 1729 to Dr. Delany on the libels written against him. 1729 Directions for making a birthday song. 1729 The Pheasant and the Lark, a fable by Dr. Delany. 1730 Answer to Dr. Delany's Fable of the Pheasant and Lark. 1730 Dean Smedley's Petition to the Duke of Grafton. 1. The Duke's Answer, by Dr. Swift. Parody on a character of Dean Smedley, written in Latin by himself. 1. The Poems of Jonathan Swift Vol. 2, of 2. Contents: Poems of Jonathan Swift. Poems addressed to Vanessa and Stella Cadinus and Vanessa. 1. Love. 1. A Rebus. By Vanessa. The Dean's Answer. Stella's birthday, the 13th of March, 1718 to 19. Stella's birthday. 1. 1719 to 22. Stella, who collected and transcribed his poems Stella visiting me in my sickness Stella to Dr. Swift on his birthday, November 30, 1721 to Stella on her birthday, 1721 to 2 on the Great Buried Bottle by Dr. Delaney epitaph by the same Stella's birthday, Stella at Wood Park, a New Year's gift for Beck, 1. Dingley and Brent, 1. To Stella written on the day of her birth verses by Stella a receipt to restore Stella's youth. 1724 to 5 Stella's birthday. 1724 to 5 Beck's, 1. Birthday November 8, 1726 on the collar of Tiger, Mrs. Dingley's lapdog Stella's birthday, the 13th of March, 1726 to 7 Death and Daphne Riddles by Dr. Swift and his friends. Pethoks the Great. 1723 on a pen. 1724 on gold on the posteriors on a horn on a corkscrew the gulf of all human possessions. 1724 Louisa, 1, to Strephon. 1724 a maypole. 1725 on the moon on a circle on ink on the 5 senses Fontanella, 1, to Florinda an echo on a shadow in a glass, on time on the gallows on the vowels on snow on a cannon on a pair of dice on a candle, to Lady Carteret, by Dr. Delaney answered by Dr. Swift to Lady Carteret, by Dr. Swift answered by Dr. Sheridan a riddle answer, by Mr. F. R. A letter to Dr. Helsham probator ally to poems composed at Market Hill on cutting down the thorn at Market Hill. 1. 1727 to Dean Swift, by Sir Arthur Aitchison. 1728 Dean Swift at Sir Arthur Aitchison's in the north of Ireland on a very old glass at Market Hill answered extempore by Dr. Swift epitaph in Berkeley Churchyard, Gloucestershire My Ladies, 1. Lamentation and complaint against the Dean a pastoral dialogue. 1728 The grand question debated, whether Hamilton's Bourne, 1, should be turned into a barrack or malt house. Drapier's Hill. 1. 1730 The Dean's reasons for not building at Drapier's Hill The Revolution at Market Hill Robin and Harry. 1. 1730 A panegyric on the Dean in the person of a lady in the north, L. 1730 12 articles, 1. Political poetry parody on the Recorder of Blessington's address to Queen Anne Mr. William Crowe's address to Her Majesty, turned into meter Jack Frenchman's Lamentation, 1. An excellent new song The Garden Plot Sid Hame's Rod The Virtues of Sid Hame, 1. The Magician's Rod. 1710, 2. The famous speech-maker of England, or Baron, alias Baron, Lovell's charge at the Assizes at Exon, the 5th of April, 1710 parody on the Recorder's speech to His Grace the Duke of Ormond, 40th July, 1711 The Recorder's Speech explained by the Tories The Speech Ballad Atlas, or The Minister of State, 1. To the Lord Treasurer Oxford, 1710 lines written extempore on Mr. Harley's being stabbed mand addressed to his physician, 1710 to 11, 1. An excellent new song being the intended speech of a famous orator against peace. 1711 The Speech The Windsor Prophecy, 1. Carina, 1. A Ballad, 1711 to 12 The Fable of Midas. 1. 1711 to 12 Toland's Invitation to Dismal, 1. To Dine with the Calves Head Club Peace and Dunkirk, being an excellent new song upon the surrender of Dunkirk to General Hill, 1712 Horace, Epist. I. 7. Imitation of Horace, to Lord Oxford, AD 1713, 1. The author upon himself, 1713 The Faggot, 1. Imitation of part of the sixth satire of the second book of Horace. 1. 1714 Horace, Book 2, Odi, paraphrased, addressed to Richard Steele, Esquires 1714 Dennis Invitation to Steele, Horace, Book I, EP. V. In Sickness, written in October, 1714 The Fable of the Bitches, 1. Written in the year 1715, on an attempt to repeal the Test Act. The Moral Horace, Book 3, Ode 2, to the Earl of Oxford, late Lord Treasurer. Sent to him when in the Tower, 1716 On the Church's Danger. A poem on High Church. A poem occasioned by the hangings in the Castle of Dublin, in which the story of Fethan is expressed. A Tale of a Nettle, 1. A satirical elegy on the death of a late famous general, 1. Poems chiefly relating to Irish politics. Parody on the speech of Dr. Benjamin Pratt, 1. Provost of Trinity College to the Prince of Wales. An excellent new song, 1. On a seditious pamphlet. 1720 to 21 The Run upon the Bankers, 1. Upon the horrid plot discovered by Harlequin, the Bishop of Rochester's French dog, 1. In a dialogue between a Whig and a Tory. A quibbling elegy on Judge Boat, 1723 The epitaph verses occasioned by Whitst's, 1. Motto on his coach. 1724 Prometheus, 1. Onward the Patentee's Irish Halfpence, 2. 1724 Verses on the revival of the Order of the Bath, 1. During Walpole's administration. AD 1725 Epigram on Wood's brass money. A simile on our want of silver, and the only way to remedy it. 1725 Wooden insect. 1725 Onward the Ironmonger. 1725 Will Wood's petition to the people of Ireland, being an excellent new song, a new song on Wood's halfpence. A serious poem upon William Wood, brazier, tinker, hardwareman, coiner, founder, and esquire. An excellent new song, upon the declarations of the several corporations of the city of Dublin against Woods Halfpence verses on the upright judge, who condemned the Drapier's printer on the same epigram in answer to the Dean's verses on his own deafness. 1. Horace, Book I, Ode 14 paraphrased and inscribed to Ireland 1726 verses on the sudden drying up of St. Patrick's Well near Trinity College, Dublin. 1726 on reading Dr. Young's satire, called The Universal Passion. 1726 The Dog and Thief. 1726 A Dialogue, 1, between Mad Mullinich and Timothy. 1728 Tim and the Fables Tom and Dick. 1. Dick, a maggot clad all in brown. To Dick. 1. Dick's Variety Troilus. Part I, a dialogue between Tom and Robin. 1. 1730 Troilus. Part 2 A Fable of the Lion and Other Beasts on the Irish Bishops. 1. 1731 Horace, Book 4, Ode 9, addressed to Humphrey French, Esquires. 1. Late Lord Mayor of Dublin on Mr. Pulteney's, 1, being put out of the council. 1731 on the words brother Protestants and fellow Christians, so familiarly used by the advocates for the repeal of the Test Act in Ireland. 1733 Bettesworth's exultation upon hearing that his name would be transmitted to posterity in Dr. Swift's works. By William Duncan an epigram inscribed to the Honourable Sergeant Kite the Yahoo's Overthrow, or, the Kevan Bale's New Ballad, upon Sergeant Kite's insulting the Dean. 1. On the Archbishop of Cashel. 1. And Bettesworth on the Irish Club. 1733. 1. On Noisy Tom. Horace, part of Book I, Sat. 6. Paraphrased. 1733 on Dr. Rundle, Bishop of Derry. 1734 to 5 Epigram a character, panegyric, and description of the Legion Club. 1736 Privilege of Parliament, on a printer's, 1, being sent to Newgate a vindication of the libel, or, a new ballad, written by a shoeboy, on an attorney who was formerly a shoeboy a friendly apology for a certain justice of peace by way of defence of Hartley Hutchison, Esquires by James Blackwell, operator for the Feet A and No, a tale from Dublin. 1. Written in 1737 a ballad a wicked treasonable libel. 1. Epigrams against Carthy by Swift and others on Carthy's translation of Horace on Carthy Minotaurus on the same imitated ad Horatium cum Carthio constrictum imitated an Irish epigram on the same on Carthy's translation of Longinus ratio inter Longinum et Carthium computator on the same Carthy knocked out some teeth from his newsboy to Carthy on Carthy's publishing several lampoons, under the names of infamous poetasters to Carthy, attributing some performances to Mr. Duncan upon Carthy's threatening to translate Pindar poetical epistle to Dr. Sheridan lines written on a window. 1. In the episcopal palace at Kilmore, the upstart on the arms of the town of Waterford. 1. Verses on Blenheim. 1. An excellent new song. 1. Upon the late Grand Jury, an excellent new song upon His Grace our good Lord Archbishop of Dublin, to His Grace the Archbishop of Dublin, to the citizens. 1. Punch's petition to the ladies. Epigram on Josiah Hort. 1. Epigram. 1. Trifles George Rochfort's verses for the Rev. Dr. Swift, Dean of St. Patrick's, at Lerica, near Trim Musical and Shogiana. A left-handed letter. 1. To Dr. Sheridan. 1718, to the Dean of St. Patrick's, in answer to his left-handed letter to Mr. Thomas Sheridan ad amicum eruditum Tomam Sheridan, to the Dean of St. Patrick's, to the Dean of St. Patrick's, an answer, by Delany, to Thomas Sheridan. A reply, by Sheridan, to Delany. Another reply, by Sheridan to Thomas Sheridan. Swift to Sheridan, in reply an answer by Sheridan to Dr. Sheridan. 1718, the answer, by Dr. Sheridan. Dr. Sheridan to Dr. Swift. 1718, the Dean's answer. Dr. Sheridan's reply to the Dean to the same, by Dr. Sheridan. The Dean of St. Patrick's, to Thomas Sheridan, to the Dean of St. Patrick's. The Dean to Thomas Sheridan, to Dr. Sheridan. 1. Dr. Sheridan's answer. Dr. Swift's reply. A copy of verses from Thomas Sheridan, Clerk, to George Nimdan Dean, Esquires. 1. George Nimdan Dean's answer. George Nimdan Dean's invitation to Thomas Sheridan, to George Nimdan Dean, Esquires, upon his incomparable verses, by Dr. Delany, in Sheridan's name. 1. To Mr. Thomas Sheridan, upon his verses written in circles by Dr. Swift on Dr. Sheridan's circular verses by Mr. George Rochfort on Dan Jackson's picture, cut in silk and paper. 1. On the same picture, on the same picture, on the same picture. Dan Jackson's defense. Mr. Rochfort's reply. Dr. Delany's reply. Sheridan's reply. A rejoinder by the Dean in Jackson's name. Another rejoinder by the Dean, in Jackson's name. Sheridan's submission by the Dean. The pardon. The last speech and dying words of Daniel Jackson to the Rev. Daniel Jackson, to be humbly presented by Mr. Sheridan in person, with respect, care, and speed. To be delivered by and with Mr. Sheridan. Sheridan to Swift. Sheridan to Swift. Swift to Sheridan. Mary the cookmaid's letter to Dr. Sheridan. 1723. A portrait from the life on stealing a crown. When the Dean was asleep. The Dean's answer. A prologue to a play performed at Mr. Sheridan's school, spoken by one of the scholars. The epilogue. The song. A New Year's gift for the Dean of St. Patrick's, given him at Quilca, by Sheridan. 1723. To Quilca, a country house of Dr. Sheridan, in no very good repair. 1725. The blessings of a country life. 1725. The plagues of a country life. A faithful inventory of the furniture belonging to room in TCD, in imitation of Dr. Swift's manner. Written in the year 1725. Palinodea. 1. Horace, Book I, Ode 16, a letter to the Dean when in England. 1726 by Dr. Sheridan, an invitation to dinner from Dr. Sheridan to Dr. Swift. 1727 on the 5 ladies at Sott's Hole. 1. With the Doctor. 2. At their head the 5 ladies answer to the bow, with the wig and wings at his head by Dr. Sheridan. The bows reply to the 5 ladies answer Dr. Sheridan's ballad on Ballyspellin. 1. 1728 answer. 1. By Dr. Swift, an epistle to 2 friends. 1. To Dr. Helsham. 2. To Dr. Sheridan. Dr. Helsham's answer, a true and faithful inventory of the goods belonging to Dr. Swift, Vicar of Lerica. Upon lending his house to the Bishop of Meath, until his own was built. 1. A new simile for the ladies with useful annotations, by Dr. Sheridan. 1. 1733 an answer to a scandalous poem. Peg Radcliffe, the hostess's invitation. Verses by Sheridan. Verses addressed to Swift and to his memory on Dr. Swift. 1733 to the Rev. Dr. Swift, Dean of St. Patrick's, a birthday poem. November 30, 1736 epigrams occasioned by Dr. Swift's intended hospital for idiots and lunatics on the Dean of St. Patrick's birthday being November 30, St. Andrew's Day, an epistle to Robert Nugent, Esquires. 1. On the Drapier, by Dr. Duncan. 1. Epitaph proposed for Dr. Swift. 1745 epigram on 2 great men. 1754 to the memory of Dr. Swift, a schoolboy's theme. Verses on the Battle of the Books, by Mr. James Stirling, of the county of Meath, on Dr. Swift's leaving his estate to idiots, on several petty pieces lately published against Dean Swift, now deaf and infirm, on Faulkner's edition of Swift epigram, on Lord Orrery's remarks on Swift's life and writings to Dr. Delany, on his book entitled Observations on Lord Orrery's Remarks, epigram, an inscription, an epigram occasioned by the above inscription index. Gulliver's Travels into several remote regions of the world, by Jonathan Swift, with 38 illustrations and a map. Contents. Voyage to Lilliput. Chapter I. The author gives some account of himself and family, his first inducements to travel. He is shipwrecked, and swims for his life. Gets safe on shore in the country of Lilliput, is made a prisoner, and carried up the country. Chapter 2. The Emperor of Lilliput, attended by several of the nobility, comes to see the author in his confinement. The Emperor's person and habits described, learned men appointed to teach the author their language. He gains favor by his mild disposition, his pockets are searched, and his sword and pistols taken from him. Chapter 3. The author diverts the emperor, and his nobility of both sexes, in a very uncommon manner. The diversions of the court of Lilliput described. The author has his liberty granted him upon certain conditions. Chapter 4. Mildendo, the metropolis of Lilliput, described. together with the emperor's palace, a conversation between the author and a principal secretary concerning the affairs of that empire. The author's offers to serve the emperor in his wars. Chapter V. The author, by an extraordinary stratagem, prevents an invasion. A high title of honor is conferred upon him. Ambassadors arrive from the Emperor of Blefuscu, and sue for peace. Chapter 6. Of the inhabitants of Lilliput, their learning, laws, and customs, the manner of educating their children, the author's way of living in that country, his vindication of a great lady. Chapter 7. The author, being informed of a design to accuse him of high treason, makes his escape to Blefuscu, his reception there. Chapter 8. The author, by a lucky accident, finds means to leave Blefuscu, and after some difficulties, returns safe to his native country. List of full-page illustrations. He commanded his generals to draw up the troops' map of Lilliput and Blefuscu. I lay all this while, in great uneasiness, producing his credentials. These gentlemen made an exact inventory. Her Imperial Majesty was pleased to smile very graciously upon me and created me a nardac upon the spot. 300 tailors were employed. The happiness of dining with me he desired I would hear him with patience. I set sail, at 6 in the morning, a voyage to Brobdingnag. Chapter I. A great storm described, the longboat sent to fetch water, the author goes with it to discover the country, he is left on shore, is seized by one of the natives, and carried to a farmer's house, his reception there, with several accidents that happened there, a description of the inhabitants. Chapter 2. A description of the farmer's daughter, the author carried to a market town, and then to the metropolis, the particulars of his journey. Chapter 3. The author sent for to court, the queen buys him of his master the farmer, and presents him to the king. He disputes with his majesty's great scholars, an apartment at court provided for the author, he is in high favor with the queen. He stands up for the honor of his own country, he quarrels with the queen's dwarf. Chapter 4. The country described, a proposal for correcting modern maps, the king's palace, and some account of the metropolis, the author's way of traveling, the chief temple described. Chapter V. Several adventures that happened to the author. The execution of a criminal, the author shows his skill in navigation. Chapter 6. Several contrivances of the author to please the king and queen, he shows his skill in music. The king inquires into the state of Europe, which the author relates to him, the king's observations thereon. Chapter 7. The author's love of his country. He makes a proposal of much advantage to the king, which is rejected. The king's great ignorance in politics, the learning of that country very imperfect and confined, their laws, and military affairs, and in the state. Chapter 8. The king and queen make a progress to the frontiers. The author attends them. The manner in which he leaves the country very particularly related. He returns to England. List of full-page illustrations. They concluded I was only Relplum seal cath map of Brobdingnag, a huge creature walking, on the sea, whereupon the huge creature trod short. I drew my hanger to defend myself. I called her my Glumdalclitch, flourished after the manner of fencers in England. This gracious princess held out her little finger. She carried me to the king. I could only revenge myself by calling him brother. The smaller birds did not appear to be at all afraid of me, gave me a gale with their fans. The most violent exercise I ever underwent. You have made an admirable panegyric. She had some foreboding, somebody calling in the English tongue. My daughter kneeled, but I could not see her. Ireland in the days of Dean Swift. Irish Tracts, 1720 to 1734. By J. Bowles Daly and Jonathan Swift. Contents. Page. Introduction 1. The Drapier's Letters 25. The Address to the Jury 131. Swift's Description of Quilca 137. Answer to a Paper 142. Maxims Controlled 151. A Short View of the State of Ireland 1727. 162. The Story of the Injured Lady 174. The Answer to the Injured Lady 184. A Letter to the Archbishop of Dublin concerning the weavers 187. 2 Letters on subjects relative to the improvement of Ireland 198. The present miserable state of Ireland 216. A proposal for the universal use of Irish manufactures 1720. 227. A modest proposal 1729. 240. A character, panegyric, and description of the Legion Club 1736. 254. On doing good 264. Hints to servants, being a poetical and modernized version of Dean Swift's celebrated Directions to Servants. Contents page. The butler 9. The cook 16. The valet 21. The waiting woman 27. The footman 36. The housekeeper 50. The chambermaid 51. The porter 55. The housemaid 56. The steward 57. The groom 58. The coachman 61. The nursery maid 62. The dairymaid 63. The wet nurse 64. The laundress ib. The governess 65. General Rules 66. Asterisk. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. Index of the Project Gutenberg works of Jonathan Swift. Updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. To protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6 You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7 Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8 You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9 If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116. 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.